has a tendency, and I've seen this in other settings. I've even felt it here sometimes, that the longer a person attends MACU, or the longer a person works at MACU, chapel has the potential to feel like a duty, and I don't want people to see it that way.
I guess the point of chapel is to get together as a school and a community.
I think it's just to engage the students more, like, in their relationship with Christ.
Bring community to the campus and draw everyone together under one banner to really promote the spirituality and spiritual growth of campus.
To provide an opportunity for the spiritual development, the emotional development, and the communal development of MACU as a whole. So it's not just for students, it's also for faculty and staff.
To really focus on God and to have their kind of that head, heart, hands perspective, to have their minds challenged and their hearts kind of called toward a response to God.
And then when there's prayer, to get together and be there for each other and figure out what's going on in each other's lives, and then to hear God's word and be encouraged by it and be challenged by it, for sure.
So I think it's more of a laboratory of where people are able to experience and be involved in the actual truth of what Scripture seems to be talking about, that God wants a relationship with us.
There's the rhythm to it, right? It's twice a week. It's a Wednesday, Friday. It's the same time. And it's meant to provide space for people to kind of decompress and respond.
It's one of the few times that we have that we actually come together as one.
On a campus this size, yeah, it's easy to like bond and it's easy to get to know everyone, but sometimes you only see it from like a superficial level. Or I feel like chapel is a good way to go deeper.
I don't. Okay, let me say this. I think that for some people it does.
I think it does for some people. I think a lot of people don't want to be there, so it doesn't work as well for them because they're being forced and it's required.
There's a lot to say about the personal preparation, the personal response to chapel. I'm sure there are people that every time they go there, they experience the reality, the presence of God, and I would imagine that there are people that never do.
I think so, yeah. Even the people who come in not really wanting to participate, or they're coming in like, oh, whatever, it's chapel, sometimes someone could reach out to them and that'll make all the difference in the world.
I think we go to Mid-America, which is a Church of God university, and so I believe that for some students, the Church of God aspect of it, it gets the point across. I think for students that were not raised Church of God, or maybe have other beliefs or other viewpoints on things in the world, it may not be as effective for them.
There are chapels we succeed better, and sometimes maybe that's our own preparation. I think maybe sometimes it also has to do with the point in the semester that we're at.
I mean, for certain students, but there are some people that they go and just because they have to and they don't want to be there, so they sit there slouched down in their chair on their phones the whole time.
In the society right now we're in, it's all, much of it is me focused. What about me? What about me? What about me? And really worship is about us. And so I think it's accomplishing that. I know that not everybody loves to go to chapel, but it's about the whole. It's not about the one, and I think people need to remember that.
I rededicated my life to Christ being in chapel, so I think definitely that it accomplishes what it's supposed to.
I like chapel. I think it needs to be required to an extent because people just absolutely won't come if it's not.
I would like to see chapel be optional, at least maybe for senior students. By that time, they've attended chapel many times and usually have time constraints and requirements that cause a great deal of stress by that time.
Being forced into a relationship with God is not the way, to be honest. And I feel like if it's optional, that people that want to grow in their relationship with Christ will actually be there.
We really believe that a community meeting twice a week is that important for us to engage together. Not just students, not just faculty and faculty meetings, not just staff and their staff meetings, but a community engagement. We really believe that that is that important. Why wouldn't we make it mandatory?
I really think that where we are at this moment is pretty good. The fact that it is required, I mean, we are at a Christian college, but the fact that there's leniency with it. So, I mean, we can miss 8 chapels. I mean, that's quite a bit. And if something does happen, we just go back and watch it and write a little bit about it.
To make it an option is in some sense to say, you don't have to go to these classes. Don't do this part of your degree because we don't think it's that necessary.
On the other hand, because it is required, it may cause some students to resent it. And I think if people resent an experience or an event, it's very difficult for them to get any value out of it. So I don't know, I've gone back and forth on this a lot of different times. Just make it voluntary, which I think there'd be times when there'd be 3 of us in there, you know, because people are busy and they're tired.
I think there would always be something that comes up. There's always some assignment that's due that I would be like, oh, I'll just do it next time, and no one would end up going. So I think the idea of making chapel optional is a great idea, but would it be effective to the mission of connecting college students to God? I don't think that it would accomplish that at all.
I like that there are other ways to get chapel credits, because sometimes you just can't make it to chapel.
I've been kind of considering what the possibility of making hall devotionals, hall Bible studies, or small groups earning up to a certain number of credits for each semester, so that we're not strictly limited to we've got this many opportunities for chapel credits from chapel.
It might be nice to have another worship service in the evening once a week.
Community service could be another good thing. You know, an hour. If you don't want to do it, you know, during chapel for an hour, you can just go out and do community service somewhere for an hour.
If they made the ones, the Devos After Dark, the Theology and Coffee, or like the disability, like if they did other things that they offer chapel credit for more often, then I think that would almost be more effective than chapel, because it's like, it's a different atmosphere too. Chapel is so like the box, like college students are not about the box.
A lot of students have leadership roles in their churches, and I think that they should be able to count those as chapel attendance.
That I like Divas After Dark, but I really feel like it's not advertised at all. Like nobody really knows about it.
Come to Divas After Dark. I don't know. One of the things the chaplains have been trying to do is come up with more events and more activities that can be counted as chapel credit, like Divas or Coffee and Theology and things like that. So getting other students that aren't chaplains involved in those things and involved on those committees to make this happen would be really great.
Funny question, because I'm the person that makes that decision. So what are you not doing that everyone wants? Because we have all this footage.
Logistically, I don't know how it could happen, but I'd love to see chapel outside of the chapel area. Like do chapel somewhere else, you know, even if it's like the gym or cafeteria or something. Just mix it up a little bit.
I see students that are becoming more involved out in the congregation. So I think the way that we are going is a really good way, and I think that it's going to take, you know, a year or two, and then this is going to be a really strong program.
I feel like there should be more student involvement. Like maybe have a few chapels where it's just the students leading.
I don't think, except for the first beginning of every semester or whatever, that it's made to clear to students that they're welcome to participate. It almost looks like it's a ask you get invited to be in chapel. You know what I mean? A lot of churches will say like, hey, we're looking for volunteers. We would love volunteers. You know, instead of coming off so standoffish, how can we be more inviting?
More student participation in things. I know they have like speakers come out, talk, and everything, but it'd be nice to see students also get involved in chapel during something. I mean, in fact, they had drama club for a while there. I thought that was amazing when they did that. I'm a very much like performing arts kind of person, and so I like to see that kind of stuff. And to see students get involved and participate and show their talents or their spiritual gifts to everyone else, that to me is amazing.
That we hear all the time about diversity, but it's not very diverse. Like the music styles, like it's just not like it's very one way in chapel. And no, it's not a bad thing, but it's nice to have it's nice to be different when you have diversity day or there's dancing, like they bring people in. There's a light, like people light up going to chapel because they know it's going to be really good. They know there's going to be an awesome singer coming in, or they know it's going to be a song they've never heard before, or there's going to be something different. And I think the problem is we just get into this routine and people don't think it's going to change.
I think the difficulty is being persistently intentional not to allow it to be formulaic.
I think chapel ought to be over at 10 minutes to 11. I think the longer you make somebody stay in there who is resistant or doesn't want to be there, the more trouble you make.
I think chapel has to, in some ways, be looked at as a laboratory, and this is where we practice what we're about to go out and do, and that's lead each other in worship.
The music is a problem right now. The fact that I, as an older student, can engage and enjoy the music to a certain extent probably means it's not as interesting to a lot of the student body.
The songs we sing, I mean, they're nice and such, there's just not a lot of variety.
I think that our music has been fairly indicative of the individuals performing. You can only perform something you're skilled at, and so we play what we are familiar with, and I think that limits our ability to represent the total MACU student body.
I would like to see people with music majors or music and worship majors be able to lead and participate in chapel on a regular basis.
It's a big burden, and I think what it's taught me this past semester is, man, we placed that burden on students really heavily for a long time. They felt the burden and they burned out. There were some students I talked to at the very beginning of the school year about participation, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, it just got really heavy last year. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if it was even the right thing to do to put students only in that much responsibility.
I would love to see more students leading. I think that would be really cool. And when I say leading, if a student is able to sing and sing well, it would be awesome if the faculty could work with that student more one-on-one and say, hey, let's get you, do you know how to lead a service? Have you had any experience with that kind of thing? And then let's really get them leading, because I mean, as students here, especially at a Christian college, working towards a ministry degree, it would really be cool if they could get some of that experience.
We've run into a wall of, we have people who are willing to be engaged, but we're limited on when we can rehearse. We're limited on how much engagement we have with the students and how much direct training time that we have. We've got 4 staff members who are helping to lead the different bands, but they also have full-time commitments to the university.
We used to do chapel worship practice at like 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. Well, we can't do that anymore because we're doing, kind of that, people with kids are participating too, so you have to find, so shared space, shared time has been a challenge.
I would get like a set of teams, like 2 to 5 teams maybe, for the worship, and like have them alternate on set days of the month when they play.
I love to see the students working with the staff and saying, hey, let us teach you how we plan, and then let the students work with them and say, hey, what songs are you listening to? Because then we can really get in touch and really work together as a team and then grow together.
The first semester there's a lot more modeling, a lot more teaching. In the second semester what you'll see is a little bit more student leading a song or student helping plan a set or things like that. we were watching kind of the work ethic and watching the dedication and watching the students whose hearts really are for worship and not just for being in charge, because that's a really different thing.
It's good. I like the fact now that staff are getting more involved, but I also feel like in doing that, they don't give a lot of students a chance to lead worship as much either. And I miss that too. I think there should be a good balance.
That there would be more freedom in worship. There wouldn't be such of this as, hey, we're gonna sing a verse, chorus twice. Oh, we might sing the chorus like half again. You know, I wish there was a little bit more freedom. To, hey, if we feel the Spirit leading to do this again, hey, let's do this again. Let's sing this part again. Or if we just need to have a moment of silence, that there could be that a little bit less structure. I mean, like we have a plan, right? But within that plan, there's a little bit of give and take for some freedom in the Holy Spirit to move. That would be really cool.
Well, it is Church of God, and the official position is that you can't dance on campus generally. And so I have talked to several professors about it, and I'm probably going to talk to Ronnie about it soon and seeing if there are more ways that we can open up opportunities for that in chapel.
Personally, I'm fine with it. I think it's an expression, artistic expression. I think as long as it's understood as that it's artistic, that it has to do with a person's ability to respond to God in that kind of creative way. I'm fine with that.
Me personally, I love to move around and I love to dance through worship, and I feel so restricted. I feel like I can't worship the way I want to worship because there's no place for me to go. And so I feel like if we had opportunities for people to worship like the way they worshipped, I feel like it would be a lot better and engaged, because I know there are some people that dance, there are some people that just stand there, and there are some people that sit down and write. So like, I feel like if we can accommodate those, that would be a lot better.
The speakers for chapel don't really relate to me as a student. Most of the time they're directed to 20 to 22-year-olds, which is as it should be. Most of the time I don't get a lot out of the speakers.
It's very difficult to know always how students respond or how the audience responds. Occasionally you might have a speaker that has the time and has an altar call and a lot of people respond. Or you have a speaker who runs out of time but doesn't have the opportunity to give an altar call, but you know people are talking about it later.
I've actually really enjoyed pretty much every speaker that we had here so far. There was a couple, I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that I was like, I don't really know if I'm understanding where they're going, but usually it always ended well.
May not speak to me that day, but boy, it may speak to somebody in a big way. So I'm very leery of being critical of chapel speakers.
Very good, but again, I would like to see more student speakers and such. I know usually at the end of the year they have a senior do, but I would like during chapel just to have a student come up, even something as simple as either sharing the testimony or just sharing something that God has done for them during that week. I think that would be amazing.
Coming from a Black holiness church, raised on Pentecostal, like my whole life, coming to chapel was a culture shock. And I would say for the first part of the semester when I first got here, like I didn't get anything out of it because there was no connection, like similarity connection to it at all. And I didn't get any of that. So, I mean, it took me deciding like I want to make this time devoted to God, and I'm going to figure out a way to connect to chapel. And that's a personal decision I had to make. Not a decision that chapel, like anyone in charge made, like that's a decision I had to make. And I don't think a lot of students are making that choice.
We try to ask speakers who are from various areas of the country, various racial ethnic backgrounds, various life experiences and things like that. So sometimes it can be a challenge because you know who you know, and so it's always helpful to us to have people make suggestions.
I think there's another feature for me, and that's what I would consider to be more urban and more rural.
Making something engaging doesn't just have to be catchy, it doesn't just have to be trendy. The effectiveness of truth on its own should be powerful. But I think we have to do things with excellence, being intentional to represent the total Christian tradition and not just my own and not just what is the common experience of everyone, but to make sure that we're representative of a diversity of backgrounds, worship styles, preaching styles, service formats. And I think this semester we've been a little bit pigeonholed, I would say.
I like to say that we're a collective college, but there are groups of people to hang out, and maybe within those groups say, hey, why don't we go and talk to these people or spend time with them outside of chapel, and then inside chapel there will be more engagement because it's happening outside of it.
I mean, you can see it. There's the division in chapel. You have the Church of God normally in the front, and they're praising the Lord, and then you have the ones that aren't really Church of God, but they can sing the songs. That's normally where I'm at. Then you have the athletes, and you have like all the minority students on one side, and they are just it's like a haze. Like there's just that disengagement.
I think I would say that the one thing about chapel that I probably don't communicate enough is that there's a preparation to chapel, just like there's preparation for any other class. Except for chapel, it's simply prayerful consideration of what God can do in an hour. And going into a Wednesday and a Friday morning expecting God to do something, and praying not only for our own selves, but praying for those around us, and praying for friends and coworkers to say, wow, I hope that God is speaking to me in chapel today, but I hope He's also speaking for you and to you.
I was considering MacU as my school. The idea of going and worshiping and doing praise and worship as a regular basis was one of the things that really attracted me to the school. But unfortunately, with the workload, it's not always as enjoyable because I'm usually worrying about what I should be doing during that time. But it is one of the things that attracted me to the school in the first place.
People to see it as an opportunity to meet God with the rest of our campus, and an opportunity for God to speak into our hearts and our lives. And man, why would that not be something we should gladly want to take part in? But as with any good thing, too much of a good thing sometimes can cause people to have a very negative response.